In the city of Beverly Hills, where glamour overflows on every corner, there is a restaurant called La Lumière. Synonymous with luxury and refinement, it is frequented by business people, celebrities, and all those who boast power and fortune. On this particular night, the setting gleamed with the glow of crystal chandeliers and the hushed conversations that echoed between the well-set tables. Outside, luxury cars lined up at the entrance while the customers, dressed in designer outfits, paraded along the red carpet at the doorway. It was in this setting that Shaquille O'Neal walked in. With his imposing figure and a presence that could not be ignored, he stood out markedly against the environment. Instead of a sleek suit or a tuxedo, Shaq wore a grey t-shirt and black sweatpants. His somewhat worn sneakers completed the casual look, contrasting with the extravagant standards of the place. Upon entering, Shaq immediately drew attention. The eyes of the customers turned to him, some murmuring among themselves. Sitting at one of the central tables, a businessman whispered, "What is he doing here dressed like that?" The criticism was clear, but Shaq kept his expression serene and confident. Near the entrance, Emma, a young waitress with impeccable posture and years of experience at the restaurant, observed everything with a slight smile of disdain. Emma took pride in working at La Lumière and regarded herself as a defender of the restaurant's sophistication. To her, Shaq in his casual attire seemed completely out of place. As he approached the reception, Emma intercepted him. "Good evening, sir," she said in a polite but cold tone. "May I help you?" Shaq smiled, his voice calm and courteous. "I'd like a table, please." Emma looked him up and down, her gaze clearly judgmental. "Are you sure this is the right place for you? Our meals can be a bit exclusive," she commented, in a tone that suggested doubt. Unfazed, Shaq simply nodded. "I'm sure I'll enjoy it." Emma rolled her eyes discreetly, but led him to a table. She deliberately chose the one farthest away, near the kitchen, out of sight of the other customers. Placing the menu on the table, she said, "Here you go. Make sure to check the prices before you order." The murmurs in the restaurant intensified. Some customers expressed subtle disapproval, while others merely watched with curiosity. Emma, satisfied with her attempt to humiliate Shaq, returned to the reception. Meanwhile, Shaq remained calm, leafing through the menu with genuine interest. Tension in the room increased as time went on. Emma, seizing the opportunity, approached Shaq again. "Have you decided, sir? May I suggest the filet rossini? It's our most exclusive dish," she said, emphasizing the exorbitant price. Shaq smiled and answered, "Sounds like a good choice. I'll have that." Surprised by Shaq's nonchalant choice, Emma gave him a look of disbelief. "Very well," she replied with a forced smile. "I'll place your order." As she walked away, she murmured to a colleague, "He probably has no idea how much that's going to cost." At the central table, Mr. Carter, an elderly, elegant man, was watching the scene with interest. He leaned toward his wife and remarked, "It's curious how he keeps his composure despite everything." Mrs. Carter nodded, gazing at Shaq with a mixture of curiosity and respect. When the dish was served, Emma made a point of setting it down with an exaggerated, almost theatrical flourish. "Here's the filet rossini. I hope you enjoy it," she said, her tone dripping with irony. Shaq thanked her politely and began to eat, apparently oblivious to the waitress's hostile behavior. Throughout the meal, Emma continued her provocations, making subtle remarks that suggested Shaq did not belong in that environment. "Are you enjoying the dish, sir? It's a sophisticated experience, isn't it?" Shaq only smiled and agreed. His calm and patience began to unsettle Emma, who had expected to see him lose his composure. Meanwhile, other customers started to notice the tension. Lisa, a young businesswoman seated at a nearby table, couldn't help but comment to her companion. "She's being incredibly rude," Lisa said. "He didn't do anything to deserve that kind of treatment." Finally, the restaurant manager, Mr. Thompson, noticed the situation. Approaching Shaq, he smiled warmly. "Mr. O'Neal, it's a pleasure to have you here. I apologize if there has been any discomfort." The revelation of his identity caused an immediate stir in the restaurant. Emma, who was nearby, turned pale. "Shaquille O'Neal, the basketball player?" a customer murmured. Others began whispering, some embarrassed for having judged the man by his casual attire. Emma froze, feeling the weight of her mistake. Mr. Thompson looked straight at Emma, his expression firm. "Emma, I need to speak with you in my office after your shift." Shaq, however, intervened. "It's all right, Mr. Thompson. I'd prefer that we resolve this now, here." All eyes were fixed on Shaq as he stood up. His calm but firm voice resonated throughout the restaurant. Tonight wasn't just about a meal, it was about how we treat people. He looked directly at Emma without anger, but with an intensity that made his message resonate. It doesn't matter how someone dresses or how they look, everyone deserves respect. Silence took over La Lumière. Customers and staff were moved by Shaq's words. Emma, visibly emotional, lowered her head and murmured, "I'm sorry." Shaq nodded and concluded, "Respect is the basis of any human interaction. Let's do better." After Shaq spoke, a heavy silence settled over La Lumière. The imposing presence of the former basketball player, combined with his powerful words, left everyone at the restaurant deep in thought. Emma remained with her head bowed, fighting back the shame welling up in her face. She knew she had crossed all boundaries, but still couldn't fully grasp the weight of her actions. While the atmosphere remained tense, Mr. Thompson, the manager, took the initiative to act. He approached Shaq with a respectful demeanor. "Mr. O'Neill, once again I apologize on behalf of the entire La Lumière staff. This isn't the experience we offer here. Emma will certainly learn an important lesson from all of this." Shaq, always calm and thoughtful, nodded slightly. "Mr. Thompson, I believe situations like this can serve as a learning experience for everyone. No one is immune to mistakes, but what's important is to acknowledge them, correct them, and move forward." The customers nearby, who up until then had been mere spectators, began whispering among themselves. Many of them felt ashamed for having, at some point, judged Shaq with the same prejudice Emma had shown. Lisa, seated at a nearby table, turned to her friend and commented, "He could have reacted in so many ways, but he chose to handle it in a way that teaches us all something." "Yes," her friend responded. "It's admirable. He's right. Respect shouldn't depend on appearance or status." As the tension in the restaurant began to subside, Shaq looked at Emma once more, this time with a more compassionate gaze. He knew she was embarrassed, but he also knew that this moment could be transformative if she was willing to reflect and change her attitude. "Emma," he said calmly, "what do you think you learned today?" Emma looked up hesitantly, still trying to find the right words. Her voice was low and trembling but sincere. "I learned that I shouldn't judge anyone by their appearance. I thought I was protecting the restaurant's image, but in reality, I only showed how prejudiced I was." "That's a good start," Shaq replied. "We all have prejudices, Emma. What matters is how we deal with them. Change begins when we acknowledge our mistakes and decide to do better." Mr. Thompson nodded in agreement, proud of how Shaq was handling the situation. "Emma, I think you understand the gravity of what happened. I'll give you some time to reflect on it, and I hope that when you come back to work, you'll have a new approach with our customers." Emma nodded, still visibly shaken but determined to do better. "Thank you for the opportunity. I really will change." With the atmosphere lighter, Shaq returned to his table and calmly finished his meal. The murmurs in the restaurant died down, and little by little the place returned to normal. But the lesson from that night would not be forgotten anytime soon. The story of Shaquille O'Neal and his experience at La Lumière quickly spread through the city, and soon became a topic of conversation in other social circles in Beverly Hills. The next day, Emma arrived early for work. Although she had slept little and poorly due to anxiety, she was determined to prove she deserved a second chance. She put on the same impeccable uniform as always, but this time her heart was filled with humility and a desire to do better. As she prepared the tables for the restaurant's opening, Mr. Thompson approached her. "Emma, I'm glad you've returned. I know yesterday wasn't easy, but I believe you can turn this experience into something positive." "Thank you, Mr. Thompson," Emma replied with a slight smile. "I promise I'll do my best." Shortly thereafter, the first customers began to arrive. Emma, now more aware of her attitude, served everyone with genuine courtesy, without judgment. She felt nervous but determined not to repeat the mistakes of the past. During lunch, a group of business people entered La Lumière. Among them was Lisa, the customer who had witnessed the incident the night before. Upon recognizing Emma, Lisa hesitated for a moment before sitting down. She didn't know how the waitress would behave this time. Emma approached Lisa's table with a polite smile. "Good afternoon. Welcome to La Lumière. May I bring you something to start?" Lisa, surprised by the change in attitude, responded kindly. "Yes, please. We'd like a bottle of red wine and sparkling water." "Certainly," Emma said, jotting down the order efficiently. As she walked away, she felt relieved to have handled the situation professionally. Throughout the day, Emma continued serving customers with the same courteous demeanor. She felt more confident with each interaction, and little by little, she realized that mutual respect made all the difference in the work environment. At the end of the shift, as she was tidying the last tables, Emma was surprised by an unexpected visitor. Shaquille O'Neal had returned to La Lumière. This time he was accompanied by some friends, all dressed casually. Upon seeing Shaq walk in, Emma felt her heart race. Despite everything, he had come back. She approached with a genuine but discreet smile. "Mr. O'Neal, it's good to see you again. May I find a table for you?" Shaq smiled back, with the same calm and welcoming air as before. "Sure, Emma. Thank you." Emma led Shaq and his friends to a central table, different from the previous night, and handed them the menu. As she walked away, she couldn't help but smile to herself. Shaq's presence there, that evening, was more than just a visit. It was a sign that, despite her mistake, she had earned a new chance. During dinner, Shaq and his friends chatted animatedly, while Emma attended to other tables. The restaurant's atmosphere was light, and even the customers seemed more receptive and friendly. Shaq's lesson on respect and empathy still lingered in the air. At the end of the night, Shaq called Emma over to the table. "Emma, I just wanted to say that I'm glad to see you here, working so professionally. We all deserve a second chance, and you're making good use of yours." Emma moved, thanked him. "Thank you, Mr. O'Neal. Your words made a big difference to me. I promise to keep trying to be better." Shaq smiled and left a generous tip before leaving. Watching him walk away, Emma felt a mixture of relief and gratitude. That night marked the beginning of a new phase in her life. As La Lumière's doors closed behind Shaq, the story of that night was etched not only into Emma's memory, but also into that of everyone who witnessed the situation. It was a lesson in empathy, respect, and the power to transform mistakes into learning. Days later, La Lumière had changed. Emma now led by example, ensuring that every customer was treated with respect, regardless of their appearance. The experience with Shaquille O'Neal became a lesson for the entire team. Shaq, for his part, continued to be an inspiration, showing that true power lies in empathy and respect for others. In the dazzling world of Beverly Hills, where snap judgments were common, the story of La Lumière became a reminder that true elegance lies in how we treat one another, not in what we wear or possess.